everyone, and welcome back to Australian Survivor Talking Tribal, the show where we break down the brainiest and brawniest moves from the latest week of Australian Survivor. I'm your host, Nathan Morris, and next to me, I have the master of all spy shacks, Luke Toki.
Thanks, Nate. The Mr. Miyagi of hide and seek. We're back, and what a glorious mess this week was.
And he's got heaps of hair product in today as well. Luke, you were famously creeping around camp and building spy shacks during your time on Survivor. Do you think the Aussie Outback is missing a spy shack?
Well, I don't know about you, Nate, but could you imagine trying to build a spy shack with something like this?
Where has Luke gone?
I am nowhere to be seen. It's a different environment.
Yeah.
You know, the jungle, you can leave camp and be 10 metres outside and not be seen. Outback, you can look for 100 metres and be seen, so it's going to be a lot harder.
I think you need to parachute in and do some creeping lessons.
Maybe you should give that to George.
Yeah, merch out now. George managed to spot Laura and Rachel finding an idol. Hilarious. Perhaps he needs a spy shack of his own. We're going to dive into that later, but first, let's look back on the week that was. It was a week of surprises.
Your tribe may have spoken, but your game is not over.
Just when she thought her Survivor journey was coming to an end, Cara surprises her new tribe mates at Team Brawn.
I really have gone from Survivor Hell to Survivor Heaven.
And they're not the only one surprised.
Cara, you lost our game.
Brain's luck has finally turned.
Brains win their first reward!
At the immunity challenge,
One more thing.
Jonathan has a surprise of his own.
There is a hidden immunity idol on the course today.
Haley retrieves the idol.
Haley's got it.
Brawn wins the challenge. And Brains return to Tribal Council. Joey and his alliance plan to vote off George. But Haley has other plans. And to Joey's surprise, he's blindsided and sent packing.
It was a fun ride. Sure was.
It's a new day, and George decides to spy on Rachel and Laura.
Oh, shit, she's found an idol at her advantage.
As both tribes come together for a reward challenge, Jonathan announces a big twist.
It is time to drop your buffs. We are switching things up.
The new look Brawn tribe and the new look Brains. After losing the immunity challenge, Brains are sent to Tribal Council. George has a plan, but not everyone seems to understand where their vote is going. At Tribal Council, Laura plays her idol for Rachel. As Jonathan counts the votes, the Majority Alliance realise they've made a huge mistake and Danny is sent home.
Big D. Need to bring me a torch.
It's a new day, and Jonathan reveals another big twist in the
You
game.
guys are playing for individual immunity. Both tribes are going to vote someone out.
While the winners feast on their reward, Rachel proposes a plan to Emmett. But will this plan work for Emmett in the long run? At the Brawn camp, Haley drops a bomb.
Only me and Baden that they can vote for.
Haley's decision has the tribe divided, and the original Braid tribe mates are presented with two options.
That's a 50-50 chance that we send one of our own tribe members home.
At Tribal Council, Laura and Shannon think that they are both going home until Jonathan surprises the tribe with another twist.
Only one of you will be going home tonight.
Way, Emmett, Rachel and Andrew unanimously decide that it's time for Shannon to go home.
What the hell? Nothing is ever normal in this place.
Who knew the Survivor gods could create so much havoc? To help us break down the big twists and turns, as always, is podcast host and Survivor expert, our mate Shannon Gus. Hi, Shannon.
Hi, oh my God, what an epic week of the show. Haley really emerged as such an incredible player and we lost 3 huge characters, so it was devastating, but definitely thrilling.
An exciting moment on Survivor as we hear drop the buffs. Let's talk about tribe swap. Now, I want to get into Simon proposing to work with Shannon and the original Brawn members. The two big dogs joining together. Shannon, do you think that Shannon should have done that?
Well, I think we could see how tenuous it was and that it didn't even last the week. Obviously, it was some pretty impressive play from Haley, kind of forcing their hand there. But yeah, I love this relationship between Simon and Shannon. It's like a brother-sister, frenemy relationship. Luke, it kind of reminds me of you and Sarah to a degree where, yes, they have this connection, but there's also this massive divide where Shannon's saying all she cares about is beating Simon. So that's a difficult one to be in an alliance with, I think.
Yeah, look, Shannon and Simon have really emerged as very strong strategic players in their own right and also quite capable in the challenges. So to see them, want to get back together and, because it makes sense, like keep the Brawn tribe strong. Unfortunately, Haley played her hand perfect. She really was able to find the cracks with what she did, and it was such great TV.
But I think that Shannon's mistake was trying to get Simon on her resume early.
Yeah.
What do you think, instead of thinking a little bit more strategically about how this was going to affect her game? What do you think, Shannon?
I mean, I disagree. I think Shannon should have got rid of Simon a very, very long time ago. I've been saying that, I think, pretty much since the beginning. Go for the head of the snake. He is such a dangerous player. I think I said he will be, the death of Brawn, and he has been that for Shannon. So I think that she was playing with fire having him around at all, and it has absolutely cost her at this point.
But did you, in your experience, when, this sort of thing happened to you, what happens when you get angry with somebody and you gun for them?
Well, emotional strategic moves don't work.
Yeah.
She got tunnel vision. Straight away, she should have backed off from Simon, I think, come together and stayed Brawn strong. And to be honest, I think the 50-50, I would have went that. She shouldn't have tried, to break that up. I think she should have had a sit down with with Simon. And I feel like if just them two were sitting down and they just talked it out, nutted it out, same as me and Sarah, I think there could have been a resolution, and I don't think that she would have went home.
That's why you always need to count to 10. Now let's talk about Laura trying to get George to side with her, Rachel and Georgia. As George said, you haven't spoken to me for 17 days.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? You've been in a situation where people have ignored you and then suddenly you're their world.
Yeah.
Tell me how they feel.
So on our situation, it was early days. It was before Tribe, and there was Jackie. And Jackie was aligned with Kent and Henry, and she hadn't talked strategy to me at all. I was next on the chopping block. So you find that when you can talk to people, but it's when you're talking strategy.
Yeah.
And when someone hasn't spoken strategy to you one word, and then you see them on the bottom and now they want to do a big move with you, it's well, nah, I prefer not. So, but respect to Laura, she still tried to at least push that narrative and let's try something. And she realised really quickly that it wasn't going to happen, and she's just going to roll the dice and put the idol where it's on Rachel.
Was that a breakdown in Laura and Rachel's social game?
I think it just shows that, probably easier said than done, but you really do always need to keep your options open because you just never know where it's going to go. And for someone like George, he's been so on the outs and it's been so clear. Now, a lot of that is something that they couldn't control. They voted Cara out of the game and now she's back. And, that's not hugely fair to them. That's not something that they can necessarily control. And I don't put that on them because they'd made that move. But even if Cara had been voted out and the swap had happened without her, George is still clearly flipping to the Brawn and giving them a majority because he's felt on the outs the whole time. So as much as possible, I think it is important to try and be as inclusive as you possibly can and never rule anyone out because you might need them at a change in the game.
Now let's talk about George. He's no longer on the bottom of the tribe. I love George.
Oh, I love George.
He is living life in his new Brains tribe. Aren't you happy for George right now?
Look, King George really deserves all the praise that he gets because, him creeping and catching Laura and Rachel finding that idol, that's work. He's putting in Survivor work. And he also managed to get the idol of Baden earlier. So he's very observant of other people's work and what they're doing and how they're moving around camp. And so I think him finding that and now being linked back up with Cara it's a great storyline.
Shannon, I just like to see George happy. I'm happy when George is happy. How do you feel about it?
I mean, when he saw Cara walk in, that was a really beautiful moment. It was great to see him get some new life in the game, and you really see how it just takes a day or two or one option or one opportunity, and now you have new life in the game, which is amazing. Unfortunately, it did not work out as they planned. And that's, I guess, unforeseeable. He still set up pretty well, but that Daney vote was like a dagger to the heart.
Oh, it was crazy.
It's so funny to watch George. He came up with the plan perfect, and it makes sense. Everything makes sense. But it only takes one person to stuff it up. I thought it was going to be Emmett.
I thought it was Emmett. I thought it was going to be one of the Brawn, right?
Yeah.
Because I was like, it was not sinking in. You could see they were going, remember what name?
Yeah.
Kara.
Yeah. So to see one of the brains stuff up the move, it's beautiful.
Yeah. All right. We need to talk about what went so wrong in the split vote plan. I was at home going, what is happening? That was but I don't, has Survivor, have we ever seen something like that on Survivor? Shannon?
Someone once voted incorrectly and sent someone home on a 5-4-1. So they prevented a tie in US Survivor. I don't know that I've ever seen someone vote incorrectly and actively lose a 6-3 majority and go home. It was physically painful to me.
Yeah, look, you could see Kara, she started, fidgeting a little bit and in tribal, and you kind of was gauging, like, what is happening? Like, it's simple. But obviously when the votes got read, you see a Laura come up, and it was like someone stuffed up here. So it was huge, great TV. Sometimes stuff-ups happen, but I still have told you earlier that I think that I would have just pushed for a simple majority vote. You got 3 people. Yes, you have, 66% chance? They have an idol. 90% of times, no one's going to play that idol for anyone but themselves. She did play it for Rach, but why not offer out, Rachel as the target and then go Georgia? It's still, I know there's the less risky chance of like stuffing it up, but like one person, George or Kara, could flip. And you've only had those relationships for a very short time. I still struggle with the fact of running a 3-3-3.
I totally disagree, Luke. I totally disagree, because I think that, look, it's a very easy majority. You have the power to split. You have the capability to split. And I know that you've only just met these people, but it's pretty clear George has been on the outs. You've met Kara. She got literally voted out by these people. It seems like a pretty sure thing. And also, Kara and George are a clear pair, and whether you're splitting or not, if they choose to flip on you, that's something they could do. So it's not a huge risk that just one of them is going to flip on you on the split. So I think this was a totally fine plan. It seems simple enough. 3-3-3. They couldn't have said the names more. It's actually frustrating to go back and watch it, because really they repeated it like ad length. I just think that it was just human error. It was pure human error. The plan was sound, and unfortunately it obviously gets difficult out there, and she just screwed up.
Yeah, I do agree with Shannon, because it's like...
I disagree with both of you.
No, you're wrong. You're wrong, even though we haven't been on the show. So you're just remembering a name. You're remembering that name, then you're remembering that name, which leads you to that name. But what happened? She got the name wrong.
Exactly.
No. So is that because she's hungry?
Yeah.
And tired. Well, that's what I'm saying, but she got it wrong. So it happened. She got it wrong.
But Luke, like, it's never happened ever before.
Yes,
like, it's
listen to Shannon.
To screw up the split vote that badly, that someone goes home, like, that is literally historically
Can you imagine? Can you imagine being Big D sitting at home right now, going, "All right, it's never happened in Survivor history, but it's now happened to me."
Hey mate, Big D's at home with his dog. He's fine.
No, they're both probably crying.
Luke, how many times have you just not split the... I mean, look, this is the problem with splitting the vote every time. That's why splitting the vote is such an interesting move, because you do have a risk, not necessarily that someone will accidentally screw it up, but that someone will flip and you take that risk.
Yeah.
The other risk is that you can get idled out. So there's paths to both sides.
Yeah.
This particularly with that group that was so against these brain women should have been particularly sound, that it wasn't. I mean, look, split votes go right all the time, and they very rarely, right now, have a mistake that happened so badly to them. So I thought the plan was fine. I cannot believe it worked out the way that it did. And I cannot believe that it took out Daney of all people, who was set up so well. Like, it truly was painful to me, but I can't blame George or the plan or the Brawn. I mean, unfortunately, this does sit in Kara's hands.
All right, wait. All right, now listen. Okay, now Big D's gone home.
Yeah.
Now, how would you feel, Shannon, knowing that all of a sudden that Kara has stuffed it up? Would you be wanting her out next? Purely for that stuff, or would you be like, oh no, it's fine, we roll forward together? Where would your emotions lie in that?
it would be pretty emotional and vindictive to take her out because she clearly felt so bad. If I was Cara, I'd be like, can I give up my life in the game for Dany right now? It is ironic she saved George's life in the game and now is the reason for Dany's demise completely accidentally. But I think it would be vindictive to go after her for that because she clearly didn't mean it. But you would be upset because Dany did not deserve that.
I would never forgive her if I was
Well,
Big D.
this is what I'm trying to say. Is
Yeah.
like it's quite upsetting because the fact
It
is,
is quite upsetting, Luke.
imagine Chelsea. She was upset. That's like if I lost Dave just to some stupid move.
So senseless.
You know,
Like,
or
it's-
lost
it's
Jared
so
to some
painful.
stupid move. I would be going out for revenge. Like I'd be cutting Cara down. I wouldn't care about no stupid little move.
Luke,
You know.
Luke, you'll never.
No, I'm emotional about
Luke,
it.
you'll never lose, Dave.
Well, Big D should still be there.
You'll never
Yeah.
lose, Dave.
He should still be there. And it happened to Dany of all people. Like you could see how upset everyone was. He clearly had like such a social game. He was set up so well for the rest of the game. It just shows that like nothing in this game is fair, that you can lose someone accidentally like that with just zero sense or meaning and just pure human error in this game of Survivor.
Well, look, we know what Dany means to everyone, you know, the Big D.
Yeah.
He's funny, he's cheeky, and now he's not on
love it.
Survivor, which is really sad. But I want to go to Cara, right? This mistake, is it going to affect the rest of her game? Because I personally feel that I would have an air of doubt of whether Cara can be trusted getting something right. Personally, I don't think what she did was strategic or on purpose. Do you think it was on purpose or just a mistake?
No, you could tell. We'd get a confessional with her like laughing evilly if she did
Yes,
something like
yeah.
that. No, she made a mistake. She feels, I think, worse than anyone. And I think she's okay for now because they kind of settled the nerves. Emmett's math was actually correct, that they have to stick with her and not, you know, if they were to vote her out, they'd alienate George and he'd become a swing vote in the future. So the math was sound. She's now voted with them. There's a little bit more kind of stability in the alliance. But I think, you know, if I was sitting next to her at a final 2 or a final 3, I'd be saying, like, remember when she accidentally voted Dany out? Like, that's not a good thing. So I do think hard to kind of break that reputation, but she should be okay for now.
Luke
All right, now
is
I've got-
just, watch, Luke's going to get punchy.
Listen,
We're upset about Dany.
now I love Cara and I love the relationship with her and George. I hope they go into merge and they, you know.
We all wish the best of them.
Yeah, exactly, right? But Cara got voted out. She's been voted out. She's going to have this aura about her that she's going to be the GOAT to take to the end, maybe. Otherwise, she's got great social, you know, relationships
Yes.
with everyone. So that's going to be a positive for her. But then she makes a bad move like that, and she doesn't own it. It's actually a mistake. So she's been voted out now. She's made a mistake. Like, how much further in the game can she make it and say, I've been playing a great game? She stuffed up the numbers. It's hard to, you know, say, for instance, wanting to strategize with that, knowing that she could stuff up again.
So
Like,
you're saying
I'd
that
be getting her out.
but do you think that she should claim it as a mistake or claim it as
Well, this is
strategy?
So this is what I said. At night time, it was always, I was curious if she was going to own it or whatever. That we've shown that she's owned it and she's owned that it was
Yes.
a mistake. She did it like on a mat, which that's huge. Like you did it on a mat in front of everyone. So I probably would have hit it and said, no, it wasn't me. Maybe it was someone else that flipped.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're thinking of Tara, who did get voted out and who goes to the end in your season, your first season, as someone who loses at the final tribal council. I think her getting voted out is fine because she did self-sacrifice and basically idle herself out of the game as like a beautiful human moment. I don't know that anyone would look at that poorly for her in a final tribal council, but definitely it's going to be hard to shake that she did accidentally vote out like the most likable person in the game.
Well,
Yeah, that's,
all
that's a
I
tough
know
one.
about Cara is if she was to go to the shop and get me bread, milk and coffee, she would come back with bread, milk and a ladder. We're going to pause there. We'll be back right after the break. Welcome back to Australian Survivor Talking Tribal. It was a huge week for our Survivor contestants, so we thought we would get the hot scoop from a fellow castaway. Let's take a look.
Nick Idanza here, and I am joined with an absolute star of the season, the great Shannon Lawson.
Thank you for having me, Nick. It's so wonderful to chat to you finally.
I wish it was under better circumstances. I wish we were a little bit later in the season, but how are you feeling?
I'm feeling really good. It's been really fun to watch it all back. I think, you know, after my eviction, I can just actually sit down and watch it and enjoy it for what it is. At the moment, I'm just on the edge of my seat, wondering what everyone has said behind my back.
So one of the big storylines this season has been your rivalry with Simon. It's kind of like been two battering rams. Why do you think that is?
Well, firstly, I think Simon played too hard, too strong. He came out of the gates, you know, forming a physically strong alliance. You know, we were divided instantly on day one. And as soon as I felt threatened, I went for the girls and I was like, let's rally the numbers. We could really just have a battle of the sexes, boot those strong boys out and, yeah, play our game.
So you kind of came across as the leader of your alliance. Do you think that is a fair assessment?
From Simon's point of view, I was, Mother Hubbard. I was the leader of the majority alliance. And from my point of view, what I loved about my alliance was that we shared one goal. We had one voice. I think why I was the face of it was basically because I'm not afraid of conflict. I don't mind speaking up. But yeah, I just felt like I could be the shield for Flick and Kez if I needed to. And I didn't mind that position. I still love the game. I was happy to, be a big player, and so be it. If I was the leader of my alliance, I was, but I definitely think it was a team exercise overall.
One of the more epic moments you can be involved in on Survivor is when Jonathan, big bad Jonathan, says, drop your buffs. Can you tell me what was going through your minds in that moment?
It totally blew up my game. I was so prepared with my alliance. I had the numbers. I could see myself going to merge. And so when I dropped that buff, I was blessed to see the color red. I was going back home to the land of luxuries. We had all the comfort items. I was like, yes, that's where I want to be. But God, if I could have gotten away from Simon and then finding out I had the biggest players in camp, I probably would have gone to Brains and maybe made some new friends and rallied a few more troops. So it's a big twist in the game, and it blew up my game.
So Hayley said she was going to play rock, paper, scissors with her idol. What was your thought with that? How did that affect your vote?
It didn't really affect my vote. I went in there thinking I wanted to break up Simon's 3, but when Hayley entered with her strong 4 and most of them had won immunity in the challenge, I just thought, I would rather side with them than Simon, because, Flick and I were these like casual 2 that could have just moved left to right. So for me, I wasn't threatened by the scissors, paper, rock. I just saw a new friend, a new ally, some new numbers, and I kind of just beelined it for her.
Why do you think it is that Hayley went against your side and went with the other group?
Oh, God, it was Simon and Danny. Simon thinks he's the leader. It's Danny being the neck of the tribe, twisting Simon's head in any direction. I just think, Simon having an idol, therefore 2 idols, gave him a bit of bartering power with Hayley. I just didn't have, any shiny toys to barter with her and get her across the line. And I really, really entrusted her. I really felt that we got along so quickly. But, that Hayley, she's a keen, avid player.
She's wily. So there are a couple of big players left in the game. Who should the survivors look out for?
Oh, God, I think it's a girls' year. I really feel it. I absolutely love Kez, Flick, Danny, and Hayley. They are all challenge beasts, but at the same time, they can sit in that middle ground. They can make big moves without, being too obvious about it. They're all chameleons, they're not so much targets. They can manipulate their way through, have that social game, and yet, win immunities, find idols, and play as big as the next person.
So final question, it's a double barrel. Who do you think will win based on when you left the game, and who do you want to win? And maybe they're the same person.
Okay, so it's Danny. Even though she was a big part of me going home, I never got a chance to talk with her. It was a silent silent sort of acknowledgement of, I know that you've got Simon. At some point, you are going to get Simon.
Yeah.
And for me, I was like, if you don't get him, I'm going to get him. So I felt like there were two forces on two different sides going for Simon, because his ego is like this big. And I was like, oh God, someone needs to shoot him down. So Danny is an absolute threat. And then when it comes to my personal favorite, who I would love to win, it has to be Flick. I adore her. You saw her in that water barrel challenge. She was there till the absolute end, could have pushed even further. Yeah, she's a bit of an old soul, and I really got along with her.
Shannon, thank you so much for chatting to me. Thank you for everything you brought to the game, and the fans absolutely loved it.
Thank you, Nick. Oh my God, you're so sweet. Would you do it again?
I think I'm done.
Okay. Well, we'll stick to this. Behind the scenes is better. It's more comfortable.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's dive a little deeper into this epic week of Survivor with our good friend Nick Iadanza. Nick spoke with Australian Survivor host Jonathan LaPaglia to get his thoughts on the game so far.
We are back with JLP at the end of another amazing week of Australian Survivor Season 6 Brain versus Brawn. Jono, who are the big power players? Who are the emerging people we need to be watching?
You know, I think at the moment it's really Haley. You know, she's good. She managed to pull a couple people over from the other alliance. It looked like people were really locked in. She managed to drag them over and executed the first massive blindside of the season. Sent Joey home, who was also a big, colorful character. Great to have around, but who doesn't love a blindside,
Love
right?
a blindside, except when it's happening to... Okay, the double tribal. Now, I've been to a couple of these in my Survivor career. They don't often work out well for me. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they do. What's it like, just put us in your shoes for a second, what's it like standing there trying to wrangle so many survivors in one tribal?
Yeah, it's daunting. You know, you got like 20 faces looking at you, and you're trying to keep track of everyone's story and who's related to who and who has what relationship. It's not easy. And also trying to deal with the back chat all the time.
So who mistakenly thinks that they are in control of this game?
I would say Simon. Simon on the Brawn tribe.
Okay.
Yeah, he's pretty confident. And, you know, he kind of has reason to be. You know, he's a big, handsome, muscular guy. He knows the game well.
Yep.
He thinks that his relationships are stronger than they really are.
Okay,
So he's been on the wrong side of votes a couple times, but he still believes that he's controlling all of it. So.
Last question is about idols. Now, idols, they change the nature of the game. But I've never really asked you before, what are your thoughts on idols? So I've got a few quick questions, and you tell me which one you think is the right go. So if you were out there, day one, would you search for an idol or would you not?
Ooh, that's kind of tricky. I probably would, but I want to keep it on the down low because, you know, it's a double-edged sword, right? You want to have that protection, but as soon as you have it and other people know about it, you become a target, so.
Right, so that leads me to my next question. Would you ever tell anyone that you found an idol, or would you always want to try and keep it a secret?
It would depend on the circumstances.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you can use it to build trust or some leverage, but for the most part, I would want to keep it secret. I think that's the biggest mistake that people, they're so overwhelmed with the excitement of getting one that they want to share it with someone else. And I understand that, but that's not how you play this game.
And the last question with idols, the most important one, where would you hide your idol? In your bag or in your crutch?
I didn't know we were going to get that personal.
Well, I think this is a good place to end it, and to end on an apology that when I handed you my idol, it came straight from my crutch. So apologies, JLP. Guys, we'll meet you back in the studio. Thank you so much for another week with JLP on set of Australian Survivor Season 6.
Welcome back. We just heard Jonathan talk about Joey's big blind side. Shannon, do you agree with Jonathan? Is Haley the one to look out for? Because I think she is amazing.
She is incredible. I don't have enough good words to say. I mean, the Joey blindside was the first of a few incredible moves from her in this episode, in this week. And I think that, you know, from a viewing perspective, it looks simple, right? Like those 5 are clearly on the bottom. Just get together. The numbers are there. But when you're out there, she really took it upon herself to kind of point out the hierarchy to some people who might have been in trouble sooner, someone like a Rachel leaning on those relationships. And she really had to reconcile a lot of really difficult relationships. Way had just flipped on George especially, and you could see she just socially, personally, as a human, as her time in the game really doesn't want to work with him. And she has to reconcile that to really show Way, hey, you are the secondary on the split. If you don't do this with us now, then it probably will be you next time, and really kind of force or kind of manipulate the situation to her advantage. And it was absolutely her move, and it was impeccably done.
I was amazed that Way went with it, weren't you, Luke? Because she was leaning towards not doing it, right? And I was ready to just scream, no way!
Yeah.
But it was unbelievable that Hayley got Way to do that.
Yeah, look, it makes me question if Hayley was played a very important role to bring Way across to join Joey, and then used her on the next vote to vote Joey out. I feel like Hayley has a really good grasp on the social game and where everyone sits, and she's able to use those social, relationships to really bring people in. She really emerged from a middle player that was kind of coasting in the middle to now taking control of the game, which is. She's scary. She's scary, Hayley. She's a good player.
Yeah.
Very, very aware.
Hey, Shannon, I just want to quickly go back to Way for a second. What do you think her gameplay is like? I think Way is clever in what she is doing. I explained her. I think her gameplay is like, you know when you've got a shark and you've got those little fish that are on the back of the shark, just sort of like guiding along with it. I feel like that's a model for Way's gameplay. Do you think it's clever, strategic? Is she good? What do you think?
I think Way, she was meant to go in that first tribal council, so she kind of probably feels like she's on borrowed time. Even in the way she talks to George and says, I just want to enjoy my time here, and you're making that difficult, it really shows that maybe she underestimates her own chances in the game. And it was absolutely beautiful that she won that individual immunity challenge, and everyone seemed like authentically really happy for her. So maybe she'll grow in confidence in that way. Sorry again for the Way puns, I cannot stop. But I do think as well that it's been a difficult ride for her. She has been more of a follower at this point, hasn't really been able to find her feet. And I do credit Hayley more with bringing her across and pointing out the logic to her, like, hey, you are the second on the split vote. You are at the bottom of this, and whatever you feel personally, you have to make this move. And I would give more of that credit to Hayley.
Oh, Hayley pulling the numbers.
Oh, Hayley's the shark.
Hayley pulling the numbers.
Way's that little fish.
Yes.
Yes, I agree. I think, look, Way is quite cunning. I think she's fallen in this category where it's like your child is in your tribe, and everything they do, if they do well at a challenge, if they, win a reward, it's like she gets way bigger congratulations than anyone else because they expect less from her.
Yeah.
Which I don't think it's don't assume that she is not playing the game. She is quite cunning and she knows what she's doing.
She could be standing on a pole for 7 hours in the last episode getting licked by the ocean. Let's just talk about that right now.
That's true.
Yeah, was Hayley's move to flip on the tribe a smart move, Shannon?
I think it's a risky move. I mean, you can expect to swap around this time. Obviously, they do get a swap the next day, and that is scary because you are alienating people you were previously unified with. If you go with the easy thing, you're all one big happy family. If a swap happens, you're in good with everyone. But I think she took the game into her own hands, and maybe having an idol kind of pushed that. And she knew once George goes, she has no control over her own game. She sees Joey talking to Baden. If Joey decides Baden should move up the pecking order, where does that leave her? Someone she seems close with, like a Rachel. Once Way is gone, who's the second on that split? Is it Hayley? So I think to take the initiative, to take the game into her own hands, yes, it's a bigger play. Yes, it's a risky play, but I think that she then comes into her own, and then she's calling the shots of her own game. So I see the logic for sure, even though it's a little scarier. And again, the way it was done, impeccably, beautifully actually constructed in that alliance.
I'd like to see you on Survivor, Shannon. I want to know. So Hayley took control of Brawn in the Brawn tribe in the last tribal council. Is she a threat?
Look, at the moment, she has somehow managed to not really, I think, expose herself as a massive threat. Even though she still has the idol, it's a public idol, she's still holding on to it. If anything, she's securing her alliance. She's securing her relationships, and I think that, look, I hope she goes to merge because I think Hayley has done enough to, if she gets to the end game and makes it to the final, like having a move before merge as powerful as that, is a great talking point when you're sitting there at Final Tribal. I think she's made a big move at the before merge, and now it's tribe swap and it's anyone's again.
What do you think, Shan?
I want to talk about this move because it was truly one of the best individual moves I've ever seen. The fact that she probably just came up with it on the way back from the challenge when she realized just she and Baden are the ones who are vulnerable from her alliance. And what she does is she strikes fear into the heart of the Brawn through randomness. And as Simon says, you know, Luke, you say you go for the 50-50. I know you're a gambling man. I wouldn't do that. That is a scary thing. She forces their hand with that really public, threatening fear of unpredictability because she can't be predicted, because if she's really going to a scissors, paper, rock, then she doesn't even know what she's going to do. She has to sell that, and it works perfectly. They crack like an egg, and now what she's done is she set up the Brains in that tribe to be the dominant faction, not just for this vote, but for the entire swap period of the game, possibly beyond that. And then to have the guts not to play her idol within that. She's kept the idol. She's in complete control. The fact that she got that done within the space of an afternoon, I am in awe. I think it was truly one of the best moves I've ever seen.
Now, the worst thing about mistakes is sometimes you don't realise you're making them as they're happening. So I want to talk about Shannon. Did she make a mistake going after Chelsea Luke?
Well, I think she pulled across the wrong person. You know, maybe... Well, look, Simon just ran straight back and said, "You're not taking one of my numbers."
Yeah.
You know, she made a big mistake. I think she got tunnel vision. I think she wanted Simon so bad. And even in her exit confession, well, she said, if I voted Simon out, I won Survivor. I'm like, I totally disagree with that.
Think about the bigger goal.
Yeah, how about...
Is that how you win Survivor, Luke? Is that like, that's how you win $500,000 just to get Simon out?
And how could you have not wanted to sit there and work with Simon and use his idol to some sort of play? Like, I'm kind of upset Shannon's went, but, you know, she kind of did it herself.
Yeah, you made a good point there, Shannon. That is not how you win Survivor.
Yeah.
Look, unfortunately, it's almost time to go. But first, we're going to award an imaginary trophy for the biggest play of the week. Shannon, where is your award going?
For the biggest play, I'm between Hayley's two moves. Obviously, that's what's competing. I'd have to give it to that final move with the idol and relying on that randomness. I couldn't have said, as I've said, more good things about it. Absolutely my move of the week.
Luke, your award?
By far, Cara. She really... not at all. I think, look, Hayley has came out and she's a standout right now. She's a shoo-in for an All-Stars down the track just off those episodes alone.
Yeah.
Impressive, exciting, like she bossed it, really. And I'd also like to give a little notable mention to Simon, because the way he put that dagger into Shannon when it could have went to fire.
Right at the end.
Right at the end. I think that he spoke up and he was able to twist, change Way and Emmett's vote purely for that. So, that's how I'm going.
And now he's won, right, Luke? Because that's how you win Survivor. He beat Shannon. He has $500,000.
Exactly. Yeah. That's Shannon's opinion.
I have to tell you, Hayley is just amazing. I can't wait to see what she does next. A big thank you to Shannon, Luke and Nick. Keep watching Australian Survivor Sundays, Mondays and Tuesdays at 7:30 on 10. And a new Australian Survivor Talking Tribal episode will drop every Tuesday night on 10 Play or on your favourite podcast app. Now, here's the moment that we've all been waiting for. A little sneak peek of what's to come on Australian Survivor. See you next week.